recorded and it will be posted out to Central Data TV. So Ryan, I know we're a couple minutes behind, so let's get going and I'll pass it over to you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Shane. Appreciate you guys having us, Central Data Team, and great to meet everyone. Thank you guys for taking some time to check out the Suppli platform today. My name is Ryan Ayers. I'm one of the co-founders of the company. My other co-founder, Thanasi, is on here as well. And we're excited to take you through kind of what we've built, how we've been working with the Central Data Team, and how our platform works with Infor CSD more broadly. And so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here, and we'll jump into a couple of slides, and then more importantly, jump in and take a look at our product itself. So let me go ahead and share my screen, and let me know if you guys can see it. It should say Suppli with kind of a gray background.
Yeah, you look great.
Perfect. So what is Suppli and who are we? We are the first AR and payments platform really kind of purpose-built for independent distributors. So our goal is really to make it easier for you guys to do business with your end customers, get paid faster, build a stickier, more loyal relationship with them, and ultimately hopefully take some work off of your credit and finance team's plate as well. We're based down here in Austin, Texas. We're a team of engineers, finance experts. We've got folks who've worked in the supply and distribution industry previously. So we understand the industry and the nuances and challenges you guys are facing on a daily basis. And that's really our niche. We are 100% focused on independent B2B distributors. You can see some of the folks that we work with here on the screen. The way we've designed the platform and our pricing model and the cost of supply is really designed to be applicable for distributors of all sizes. So we work with folks that are large regional players, doing hundreds of millions or even billions of dollars a year in revenue, all the way down to family-owned, single location operations as well. So really kind of span a wide array of use cases here, but again, singularly focused on independent distributors. As I mentioned, and as some of you guys may know, we were excited to form a partnership with the team at Central Data to be kind of their preferred AR solution for the folks that they work with. We do have a full API integration into Infor CSD that allows for bi-directional syncing of customer invoice, AR, and payments data. It also means that our implementation, literally takes weeks, not months, to get folks up and live. So this is the solution that we'll look at today is a relatively light lift, for your team to implement. And the other nice thing here is for folks who are Central Data customers, there are 0 implementation fees. So we've tried to make this as low cost and low risk as possible to set up. I wanted to start though by asking kind of a few questions, and obviously I can't see you guys, so these will be a little bit rhetorical, but this will kind of help us think through sort of what Suppli is going to do for distributors like you guys. I'm sure there's some folks here who maybe compete with national brands in their markets. I would guess if we kind of went around and said, is customer service a differentiator for you guys? I'm sure the answer would be yes. Do you like your customers to pay you on time? Is finding and retaining good employees a challenge in today's market? Do you love paying credit card fees? And do you have a customer portal today? I was able to kind of do some research ahead of the call on some folks, and I saw some websites maybe had some forms of online payment, others didn't. But if the answers to these questions are yes or no, depending on the question, I think they'll kind of set a nice background here for some of the challenges that we'll solve with a solution like Suppli. And so, like we said, what does it mean, an AR and payments platform built for distributors? Really kind of think of it as two sides of our system. One is a customer-facing system called the customer portal. That's going to be where your accounts have the ability to log in 24/7 to securely view invoices, make payments via card or ACH, pull reports on how much they've spent with you, sign up for auto pay, manage users that have access to their account. So it's really a robust place for them to go to be able to self-service. The other side of our system is, think of it as kind of like an accounts receivable workspace, or it's really almost like a digital team member for your credit department who's going to go in and do things like automatically send out invoice due date reminders or past due notifications, or track things like promise to pays or invoice disputes, payments that are coming in. So it's really kind of a two-sided system. And again, in the middle, the goal here is to offer modern communication and a modern transaction experience for your end customers. So today we're going to talk through kind of 3 different use cases as we jump into the product. And these are really kind of, what we found to be the 3 reasons that folks ultimately, implement a solution or a tool like Suppli. So the first is going to be differentiating your customer experience. So a lot of the times when we talk to distributors, before, they may have no online payment option, or, maybe they kind of have a legacy system that's, a little bit clunky or a little bit basic in terms of features and functions. A lot of the times the payments may not automatically integrate into Infor. Sometimes there's a lag with the data getting from Infor, into the customer portal. And remittance information can be spotty. What we'll show you on Suppli is kind of a more modern, user-friendly way for customers to go in and look at their portal and interact with it. And obviously the benefit of our portal is all payments that are made are going to be automatically synced over and applied in Infor CSD. So enough talking. I'm actually going to show you here what our experience looks like from your end customer's point of view. So I pulled up the customer portal here. I'm going to go ahead and log in, and we'll take a look at what one of your customers would see on the Suppli customer portal. So this obviously would be a white labeled solution. So it'd be your branding and logo here. And then when the customer logs in, we've really tried to make this extremely easy for them to use. Your customers don't have time to learn a complicated piece of software. They're busy, running their own companies. They got a lot on their mind. So we've tried to make this really simple, where the first time they use it, they can have success and get value out of it. They're not having to ping you with a bunch of questions or, get confused and sort of give up on it. The second thing is accessibility. A lot of the times today, your buyers are probably on the go. They're operating from their phones or in a mobile environment. And so we'll show you some of the ways we've designed this experience accordingly. So when your customers log in here, they've got a super straightforward overview of their account. So they can see their summary here on the top left, from their outstanding invoices all the way down to their net due balance. If you have customers who think about things on kind of a job or project or ship to basis, we can organize their open AR and payments accordingly, so they can see what they owe you across their different jobs or ship tos. They can also pay by job or ship to. So if they're getting paid or running their business on a particular project by project or job by job basis, they can come in here and actually make payments on their account accordingly. They can do things like enter a flat dollar amount. So if they can only make a $10,000 payment, for example, they can do that here. But note that we'll prompt them to choose how they want to apply that flat payment, oldest to newest or newest to oldest. And the reason I call that out, there's no way for your customers to make a payment through our portal without us, and therefore you guys, having perfect remittance information down to the penny. And that, again, is what we're using to actually take these payments, fully sync them over into CSD, and actually apply them to the underlying invoices. So they are truly touchless from your team's perspective. No manual cash application or remittance research required. Your customers can also go in, though, and view all of their invoices. So they'll be able to see their outstanding invoices, any paid invoices on their account, or any open deposits or credits as well. They can get in here and see all the full detail around, POs. If there's early pay discounts, those will show up here. We actually pull in the underlying PDF copies of the invoices as well, so they can get in and see the line item details, download these, print them off, whatever they need to do. And then in terms of making payment, it's easy for them to come in here. They could say, hey, maybe I want to pay off all my 31 through 60-day past due invoices. So they click this button, select those, and then click make a payment. If you allow customers to make a partial payment, they can do that here. But if they are going to enter a partial payment, we're going to require them to provide a reason as to why they're not paying you in full. So when this payment comes over, your team's going to be able to see the reason they entered. Maybe it was a sales tax issue. So that way you're not having to go chase down why you're not getting paid in full. And then checkout here, super simple. They can connect as many different saved payment methods to their account as they want. We support debit cards, credit cards, and bank accounts for ACH payments. So they can come in here, select a payment method. If they have any credits or early pay discounts available, those will be applied here in the middle. And then one of the things that we do is we've got an integrated credit card surcharge program built into Suppli. So this allows you to pass on up to a 3% fee when your customers are paying by credit card. We take care of all of the compliance and the calculation of these fees. It happens automatically here. So you can see this customer has selected a credit card payment. So that fee is automatically getting charged. As soon as they click over and pay ACH, that fee goes away and the total amount charged updates in real time. And we actually give you quite a bit of configurability here in terms of how you want to charge these fees. So you can do things like say, I only want to charge it for certain customers and not others. You can turn it on or off, for each of your accounts. You can also set rules though to trigger it more dynamically. So maybe you want to say, hey, I only want to charge this on card payments related to past due invoices, or maybe I only want to charge a fee on payments over a certain dollar amount. If you're operating in multiple states where some states allow surcharge, some don't, you can configure rules to say if the customer is based in a state that doesn't allow it, don't pass the fee on. So you've got a ton of configurability and flexibility in terms of how you pass that fee on. And obviously this goes a long way in terms of cutting down on some of those credit card processing fees. In terms of kind of what else the customer can do, we give them access to all their data. So if they need to run an interim account statement in one click of a button, they can generate an interim account statement here that'll show them their account summary, their aging summary, again, organize all their open items by job or ship to. And then what's nice is this link in the PDF is actually a live link that'll kick them right back to your customer portal to log in and actually pay these items. They've also got access to full reporting here. So if they want to come in and see, hey, how much have I spent with this particular supplier or distributor? They can come in here and sort all their invoices by project, by issue date. All of this is exportable into CSV or Excel. So, we hear use cases like at year end, they may need to pull this information for tax purposes or bookkeeping purposes. They can do that without having to, bug your team for it. Same story on payments. They can see all their historical payments and be able to track those here in the system as well. And then last thing here on the customer side, beyond just being able to view and pay invoices, we give them, control over their account. So they can add and remove their own team members to have access to their customer portal. So say they hire a new bookkeeper or someone on their team leaves, they can add or remove those users as they need to, and even assign them different roles. So if they need to have a billing contact versus a view-only user, et cetera, they're in control and can manage all of that. And then under payment settings, again, another place where they can manage their stored payment methods on file. Suppli will even do things like if they've got a credit card on file that's about to expire, in that expiration month, the system will automatically send them a reminder saying, hey, your card on file expires this month. Please make sure to update to avoid any inadvertent payment issues. This is also where folks can enroll in auto pay. So think about this like, maybe how you manage your utility bill or your credit card bill. Imagine your customers being able to come in, select a payment method on file, choose the day of the month that they want to pay off their open items on their account, and it's truly kind of set it and forget it from here. So this is something that we've actually seen a pretty substantial adoption of. A lot of these buyers are just trying to take things off their to-do list, and so by being able to automatically manage these auto pays right from the portal, it's something they've really appreciated. Then last thing on the customer portal side here, again, it's pretty straightforward and simple. That's by design. The other point I talked about though is accessibility. A lot of the times your guys may not be behind a computer all day, or maybe they're just not thinking about this till they're, at home at night or over the weekend scrolling on their phone. So we've designed the entire customer portal experience to be mobile first. So if I refresh my screen here, this is what that same portal looks like from a iPhone 12, for example. So it's 100% the exact same functionality. They can come through here and swipe through their jobs. They can still view the underlying invoices. So each one of these invoices is a card. They can click into it, see the details, make payments. So the exact same functionality, no matter where they're accessing the portal from. And what's great about it, it's not an app, so there's nothing for them to download on their phone. It works from any mobile browser. That also means it works equally well from both iPhone and Android devices. So again, just making it super easy wherever and whenever they're accessing their account to go in and manage it. So I'll pause there, Shane. I haven't been watching the chat, but if there's any questions on kind of the customer portal side, glad to kind of answer those before we jump to the next use case.
I don't see any right now, so you can continue.
Okay,
Good stuff.
Perfect. So that's a little bit again about kind of how, before and after, sort of the difference in terms of, the level of detail and functionality Suppli can help deliver for your end customers. But we know even with, the world's most beautiful or perfect customer portal, there's still going to be work that your credit and AR and collection teams are going to have to do. And so the second use case I wanted to cover today, is really around adding a digital worker to your credit team, right? The difference is this is going to be a worker who works 24/7, never complains, and quietly takes hours of manual work off of your credit and sales team's plates every week. So, think the ability again to send out automated customer reminders, to send payment links, to flag payment issues for you guys. There's a whole host of activities the system can kind of perform and take off your plate. And so with that, I want to pop in and we will take a look at what we call the supplier portal. So this is where your team would have access to kind of jump into the system and take a look at all of your open AR and customer data. So again, underlying source for all of this is Infor CSD. That remains your source of truth. We're pulling all of this in every time we sync via our API connection. So as you guys are adding new customers or new customer contacts or invoices, credits, et cetera, all of those are automatically pulling over into the Suppli system. And so when you log in here, really the goal is to give you a straightforward snapshot of what your current AR portfolio looks like. So key stats here on the left side of the screen. And then along the top here, we've tried to flag things that might require your team's more immediate attention. So the idea here is to help your team prioritize at the beginning of each day, hey, where do we need to go and be spending our time? And so this will capture things like payment issues. If a customer's tried to make a card or an ACH payment and it's failed, we'll flag that.
Hey, Ryan.
Yes.
I don't believe the screen's showing right now.
Oh, good call out. Let me go back.
I think that's what Natalie's typing to us as well.
Very good. Thank you for flagging that. That would probably help. Let me know if you guys can see it now.
There we go. We're back.
Okay. Sorry about that. So we're looking now kind of again at your side of the system, and now hopefully you can actually see what I'm talking about. But these are the alerts at the top here, again, where we're flagging things like failed payments. If a customer's looked at an invoice in their portal and noticed something's wrong, they can flag a dispute and your team will get an alert. We'll look at some of the credit tools we've baked into the system here, but you can actually track things like promise to pays in Suppli. And if a customer hasn't paid the invoices that were part of a promise to pay, then we'll actually alert that that's an expired or broken promise to pay here as well. This is also, for folks who are in kind of more construction specific verticals where they may be dealing with things like liens. You can actually configure Suppli to give you alerts when one of your customers has had a new lien filed against them, or if they've requested a lien waiver while they were making payment through the customer portal, those can show up here as well. And then the other thing I like to flag on notifications, your team can actually sign up to get email notifications right into your inbox for a whole host of actions that might happen in the Suppli system. So, whether that's when a customer pays successfully, if they had a failed payment, if there's a chargeback, you can get a sense of just all the different things your team can get notifications on. So the idea is, even if you're not logged into the Suppli system, it's easy for you to stay on top of what's going on with your various accounts. But what I kind of wanted to show you is, how Suppli is going to help streamline and even automate, some of the workflows your team, may be doing, manually today. And so let's pop in here to our, customers table, and it looks like we've got 10 customers who are 90 plus days past due. So I'll jump in here, and it looks like JRW Construction owes us, $150,000. So let's pop into their account. Along the top here, I can see all of their pertinent credit information, their credit line, what's outstanding, their terms. I've got a mini dashboard here, so I can see their account summary, their aging. You've got a digital diary here where your team can add as many different notes as needed. You can also pin notes at the top here for important instructions. Similar to like your customers can, your team can also generate statements in one click of a button. So that's going to pull open that PDF formatted statement we were looking at previously. So if you've got someone on the phone and they ask for it, you can literally do that in one click. But let's say we come in here and we want to see their invoices. So it looks like this guy's got about 34,000 that's in that 90 days plus category. So let's click there to just see those invoices. Maybe we've got him on the phone and he's ready to take a payment. We've got a virtual terminal where your team can go in and still capture those payments using their saved payment methods on file here. But what you can also do is maybe he's throwing, the typical excuses at you. I never got this invoice. You never sent it to me. I can't find it. You can actually go in and send what we call a payment request. So this allows you to send a payment link via text or email to your customer where they can view and pay these invoices without even having to log in. So if you've got their contact info, we'll pull that in from CSD. All you have to do is click the name. You can also, though, send it to an ad hoc email or mobile phone number by using this blue link. So I'll go ahead and send an example here to myself so you guys can take a look and see what this looks like. So I put that in. I can enter a memo here. Please pay this today. When I click request payment, Suppli is now going to send an email out, and I'll show you here. Let me log out of the customer portal. We'll show you exactly what that looks like. So we'll give it a second here. It should come through. And there it is. Texas Building Materials is requesting a payment link so the customer can see the invoices here, and then literally can click this Pay Now button, and it's going to take them to a branded payments page where, again, without even having to log in, they can view the invoices. They can get right down to the PDF details if they want to see the line item details of those invoices that were included in the request. And then all they have to do is scroll down and punch in their card or bank account information to make a payment. So what's awesome about this is there's no remembering a username or password. They don't have to go find your portal. They can do it right from these notifications. And again, these payments that are made are still going to be automatically synced and applied back into CSD. So if we jump back over here, let's say we've got this guy on the phone and we're talking about these same invoices here. Let's go back and grab those 90-day plus ones. Let's say he tells us, hey, I'm going to be able to pay these next Thursday. I'm waiting for payment to come in from someone else, or we're cutting checks next week. You can actually come in and create a promise to pay based on what they're telling you. So if he says, hey, I'm going to pay you next Thursday, we can select the 29th. You can enter any notes in here, and you can actually now have these invoices be part of a promise to pay. And like I said earlier, Suppli is now going to track these for you. And if the customer doesn't pay these invoices by next Thursday, we'll flag that so that your team needs to go follow up with them. The other thing we'll do too is we'll actually remind the customer the day before the promised payment date. And in that reminder will be a similar payment link or a button where they can either go to the portal to log in to pay them, or can pay them without logging in straight from that reminder or notification. Last thing we have here is what we call kind of a promise to pay on steroids. So think about being able to schedule payments in the future using what we call our payment plan feature. So this allows you to come in, select a payment method on file. And in that same scenario, if the customer's saying, hey, I'm not going to be able to pay you until next Thursday, you can actually go in and schedule a payment to run in a future date. But the other thing you can use this tool for is, if you've got a scenario where you want to work or give the customer a little more flexibility, you can actually break this group of invoices into up to a 10 installment true payment plan. And so when you click add payment plan here, the customer will approve these installments. And then once they do, they'll run automatically against the payment method selected without you or the team having to remember to do anything. So a really nice way to be able to schedule those payments out in the future. Next thing I wanted to flag here was, again, talking about some of the automation. We took a look at what that payment link looks like. You can actually go in and kind of programmatically send those links out by shooting your customers different types of notifications. So this could be everything from like a new invoices daily summary. You can generate and send out monthly statements from Suppli based on the cutoff date you select. From a collections perspective, imagine being automatically able to proactively remind customers when they have invoices coming due, maybe 3 days before the due date or on the due date. We've got a chasing email that can go out on past due invoices automatically based on the frequency that you select. You can even do things like flag an early payment discount that's getting ready to expire. What's really nice about these is they can all be sent out via email and or text. You can configure these for each individual customer. So you can really tailor this down based on what kind of a cadence you want to run with each of your accounts. And then I'll show you an example here again. I think I have one pulled up, maybe not, of what this looks like. But it's similar to what we were kind of looking at on that payment link earlier. At the bottom of all these notifications, there's going to be a big button or a big link, that says click here to pay. That's going to either take the customer back to your portal or allow them to make a one-time payment. And then last thing here on the customer level, we track everything in Suppli automatically. So we're going to do this at the invoice level, but also at the customer level. So your team, it's super easy for anyone to come in and see all the actions that you or the customer has taken related to payments on their account. So you can come in and see promise to pays here, which invoices were included with those. You'll be able to see the payment requests that you've sent out. If they've made any payments, those are going to show up here as well. So it's about kind of making it easy for anyone on the team to come in and understand what's been going on with a particular account from a credit or collections perspective. And then same thing, your team can come in here and see any payments that have been made in the system, any open promise to pays, payment plans, etc. Those are all going to show up here, so it's easy for you guys to be able to track and stay on top of those things. We've also got full reporting in your side of the system. So you've got kind of your usual suspects of AR reports. You can pull AR aging detail reports by customer. You can pull one-line AR aging summaries across your different accounts. What's great about these is we can actually tag your team members to particular accounts in Suppli. So if you wanted to come in here, for example, and pull an AR aging summary by salesperson or by collector or by credit team member, you can easily do that here. All of our reports are exportable to CSV or Excel in a single click. And then same story for things like payments. You can come in here and use this report to filter through any payments the customers have been making in your system. You can filter it by settlement date, so it makes it super easy to do any reconciliation between Suppli and your bank account or Suppli and CSD. And then we can even track things like adoption, so you can keep tabs on which of your customers have activated their customer portal access, when did they last log in, etc. Or if you've invited folks and they haven't accepted their invitation, you can track all of that here as well to make sure that folks are adopting and starting to use your portal. And then last thing we'll flag here on your side is just under the settings. Again, we talked about some of the things you can do around credit card fees. So this is where you can come in and customize things like those triggers and rules we talked about, whether or not you want to include them on deposit or COD payments, auto pays, etc. That's all available here to control. And again, you can even dial in things like allowing or disallowing early pay discounts for card payments, allowing customers to make partial payments in the customer portal. All of these things can be configured both globally here, and then you can go in and configure them account by account as well. So full control, over how you're kind of setting these things up across your different customers. So I'll pause there. Again, if there's any questions in the queue, kind of on the supplier facing side of the system or kind of this digital team member, glad to dive into any of those now.
I don't see any in the chat or the QA.
Okay.
I have some questions for the group. I mean, how many people here have looked at rolling out a solution and for one reason or another decided not to? I'm just kind of curious. Don't be shy. We don't bite.
I believe everyone is on mute, so they might have to chat it in. So I have one, because the partnership is a little bit newer.
Sure.
And obviously we're really excited to get a couple of customers on board. When you mentioned the no implementation costs, what's associated with that? What does a kind of a kickoff to go live time frame effort look like, and who's typically involved in that on the client side?
Yeah, so we put it into, we think of implementation really in kind of three buckets, Shane. So one is like the technical implementation. So, you know, the connecting of your instance of CSD with Suppli. Because we have a full API to API integration there, there's really not much work required from the distributor's perspective, other than provisioning us with, you know, the required API keys. The second part of our implementation is what we call user training. So one of the things that we do is we offer unlimited user training for the distributors, you know, credit and finance teams. Obviously, they're going to typically be the primary day-to-day users here. You know, we can do that in one session or multiple sessions, depending on your preference. The other thing we can do is actually work with your sales team as well to do like a sales team teach-in, so we can communicate the customer portal and its benefits to the sales folks who are going to be out, you know, dealing and interacting with these accounts on a day-to-day basis. And then the last piece of what we do is what we call kind of the actual customer portal rollout. So our customer success team will actually come in, we'll share our customer portal rollout guide, which is a collection of best practices we've put together, you know, now having launched, you know, Suppli as many times as we have. So that's going to include things like pre-launch email communication templates to share with your customers. That'll include things like a co-branded one-pager you can share with your customers to describe Suppli. It'll have instructions for how to add your new portal to your website, to your email signature block, to your invoice or statement template. So we include all of that, you know, that's as part of kind of our implementation process. And, you know, typically from the distributor side, it's a combination of maybe, you know, someone from the IT side, typically kind of a project champion on sort of the credit or finance side. And then again, to the extent we're looping in any, you know, folks from the sales front just to kind of educate them on the portal, you know, they may be involved as well.
Yeah, and it's a good segue into, you know, kind of one of the reasons I asked my question is we often hear from a lot of people that, you know, maybe they've looked at a solution, but, you know, one of the two principal things that always stands out when they're looking at solutions is cost and implementation and how long that's going to take, right? And I think because we've tailored our solution again, and we work with suppliers as small as 25 million a year in sales to close to $1 billion a year in sales. And I think that the benefit is, you know, from a pricing perspective, you know, this isn't like a 5-figure implementation investment, right? You know, for example, there'd be no implementation fees to get up and running. And this isn't like a 6-figure contract where it's like, hey, just to have a portal is $100,000 a year. You know, the majority of our revenue actually is from the processing of payments, which, you know, when you think about what that's going to cost, you're essentially already paying a credit card processor today. Maybe you're using Elavon through the Infor, you know, payment gateway, et cetera. So you're already paying them fees. So essentially we're kind of just copying and pasting those fees. And instead of, you know, getting just your basic payment processing with Elavon, you're getting our entire solution on top of that. And then, you know, from an implementation perspective, as Ryan was pointing out, you know, for like an Infor CSD integration, because we've already done one, you know, really there's not a lot of work required from you guys, and we could get you up and running within a month, right? This isn't a 6-month, 12-month project where, you know, it's never ending. There's a ton of time required from your side. It's a really quick and easy thing to do. And in terms of what are the benefits of that, that investment, for example, we just went live with an electrical distributor with about $20 million a year in AR, or 20 million a month in open AR. And within a couple of weeks of launching, we've already reduced their DSOs, or their average days outstanding by, like, I think three or 4 days, right? Which is a pretty material number when you think about that sort of balance. And so, there is a pretty, again, it's not a huge investment of time and money. And it's a pretty quick ROI in terms of being able to get you guys paid faster, not to mention provide your customers with a much better experience.
Yeah. And from a customer adoption standpoint, that's another point we sometimes hear. We've got old school customers. They're not going to use something like this, et cetera. One of the things we're most proud about is we're averaging, after only 3 months on the platform, folks getting up to like 50 to 60% customer adoption. And again, I think that speaks to, some of the usability and design we've put in on kind of the customer facing side. So.
Yeah. And Oh,
I see a question there.
Yeah. I mean, just to give you some statistics, we have about 500,000 customers that have signed up to use Suppli through, obviously, our what we call merchants, which would be supplier relationships, right? And the vast majority of those are, what you consider old school people in old school industries, right? These aren't, tech people or people working in software development. These are people buying from brick and mortar distributors. And so pretty significant level of adoption, even in these industries that, some people might say, hey, people are too old school. They want to write a check, and we're not going to lie, you're still going to get checks, but you're going to see a pretty significant amount of those payments also convert to digital, which is going to be much faster and much easier for you guys.
Natalie, I see your question here in the chat. So what we'll do is we'll automatically pull in contacts from Infor CSD. If you've got a list of contacts like in a different CRM or some other system, we can also import those during kind of the onboarding process to get them into Suppli. And then you can configure it to where Suppli can automatically send out invitations to customers as they get added to the system, or your team can be in control of deciding who you want to invite. But like I said, if there's customers who don't go through the process of activating their account, or they just decide they don't want to use another customer portal, the great thing about Suppli is your team can still take payments on their behalf through your side of the system. And then with those text and email payment links, that's a great way to still be able to transact with those customers, again, without having to have them go to your portal and log in. And we're actually seeing about a 65% conversion rate on those payment links when our suppliers today are sending those out in terms of those links converting into real payments. So that's a great way to still be able to engage with those customers more conveniently through Suppli, even if they're not actually using the full portal. Perfect. Well, the last thing we wanted to cover today, and I'll make sure to actually share my screen here again, is, and talking about payments is kind of a good segue here. We wanted to talk about reducing risk. I think it's pretty clear that the world is moving more and more digital when it comes to payments, particularly in B2B distribution. Check usage is going down consistently year over year. And while digital payments are great because they're faster, typically more secure, definitely more convenient for both your team and your customers, it does definitely expose suppliers and distributors to more risk. And that's something we've really kind of thought a lot about and built a lot of tooling around to help make sure that you guys are staying secure in a more digital world. And so one example of that is credit card fraud. Again, I can't see hands or faces here, but I'm guessing if we went around the room, almost everyone on this call has experienced or almost been caught by fraudulent credit card activity. It's happening more and more in today's world, particularly for like those COD customers where you may not have a long-standing relationship. You don't really know who you're necessarily doing business with on the other end of the line. And so one of the things that we've built into Suppli is called 3DS authentication. What this is, think of it like two-factor authentication, but for credit card payments. You may have seen this in your personal lives if you've ever been buying something online and during the transaction process, a little window popped up from Wells Fargo or JP Morgan or Bank of America, and it said, hey, we've sent you a 6-digit code, enter it in here to authenticate yourself as the card holder. It's the exact same concept, but you can actually roll that out for transactions with your end customers. And so what that's going to do is it'll block fraudulent transactions the vast majority of the time, because typically the fraudster has a stolen credit card number, but they're not going to be able to authenticate themselves. The rightful cardholder is going to get that text, not the fraudster. But the second thing that's maybe even more important here is that anytime a transaction is protected by 3DS, the fraudulent chargeback risk for that transaction actually shifts away from you, the merchant, and back to the card issuer. And so what that essentially means is you guys can take COD credit card payments, for example, without having to bear any risk of fraudulent chargebacks. And so that's something that we've seen in a lot of verticals we work in. That's a huge game changer. Today a lot of folks are having to deal with credit card authorization forms, or maybe they're making folks scan their driver's license over, or even come in person to pay. And so by enabling this 3DS that we've built in, it's a way for you guys to really protect yourselves and eliminate that fraud risk. The second one that we see a ton, and I don't think people are as aware of, is ACH phishing risk. I was actually just at the NACM Credit Congress meeting earlier this week, and this was a topic that came up again and again. It's actually become the #1 most reported form of B2B payment fraud. And so again, I'd surveyed the audience here, but a lot of folks take ACH today, but their process for doing so involves sharing their bank account and routing numbers with your customers. So maybe you've got like a one-pager, maybe you send it via email, then the customer goes and deals with their bank to actually send you the payment. One, that's just kind of an inconvenient experience for the customer. They have to go to their bank and set it up to go to you. It's maybe they include the right remittance information. Maybe you're just getting ACH payments dropped into your account. You don't know what they're related to. But more importantly, it exposes you to what's called ACH phishing risk. And what I mean by that is a fraudster coming in and sending an email that looks like it came from you, but sending a doctored set of ACH instructions where they've changed the bank account and routing number to their own account, and in hopes that your customer doesn't check it or doesn't call in to verify the change in ACH instructions, and ends up sending money to them fraudulently. And we had a user story on this 2 weeks ago where a ready mix supplier that we work with had their largest customer had a new controller that had started, and they got phished. The controller received the fraudulent ACH instructions, and they were so busy because they were getting onboarded and kind of ramped up to speed, forgot to call in to confirm it, and ended up sending $100,000 to a bank account in Iceland. And so now that supplier is stuck, working with insurance and their customers' insurance to try to figure out who's going to bear the loss there. So it's a real mess. So with Suppli, like we looked at before in the customer portal, your customers can save down their bank account information to allow for one-click ACH payment. So completely eliminates the phishing risk. You're not having to share your account and routing number anymore. And then again, massively increases the convenience both for your customer. Now it's literally just as easy as clicking a button. And then also for your team, because now those ACH payments have all of the remittance down to the penny buttoned up and attached to them, which means they automatically get synced over and applied in CSD. And then the last thing here, which we already talked on, is just around reducing the overall cost of digital payments. And like we talked about, the fully integrated, compliant, and flexible credit card surcharge fees that enable you guys to pass on some of those costs to your customer and protect margin there. So again, big part of what we do is helping you guys, reduce the risk and cost of operating in a digital world.
Yeah, and for those of you that may work in multiple states, we're able to essentially, we have built-in logic that turns on or off the fee based on which state, because you guys may know, like, certain states do not allow it and certain states do. So again, it's just there to kind of make sure that you guys stay compliant within those rules.
That's great. Brian, we have another question. It's from Andrea. She says, how are payments not made through Suppli reflected to the customer? What is the look back on payments made prior to go live? Does the history available only start from the go live date?
All great questions. So the great thing about our integration with CSD is it's bi-directional. So that means data moves back and forth between the two systems. So if you guys go in and enter payments into CSD, that's going to flow over and update the balances of the corresponding invoices in supply and vice versa. So we work with a lot of suppliers and distributors who, have a certain process for handling like check payments today, for example. You can continue to do that and rest assured that anytime a payment's getting entered into CSD, it's going to update the balance accordingly in supply. And then in terms of the look back on, payments or invoices or paid invoices, we can go back in terms of pulling in historical information as far as you'd like. Typically folks will say maybe they want to go 12 months back. We'll have folks who say they want to go back to like Jan 1 of the current year. We have others who say they just want to make a clean break, and start anew when they go live on supply. So we've got, kind of full flexibility based on whatever use case you think makes the most sense for your accounts.
That's great. We got a thank you from Andrea. That's great.
Of course. Yeah.
Well, appreciate the opportunity to share this today. Again, this has been recorded. It will be out on Central Data TV. From a next step standpoint, Ryan, what does that look like? They interact with me. They say they want to get in touch. They want to do a deeper dive. Just explain to me kind of how a next step would potentially work.
Yeah, Shane, if folks reach out to you, feel free to send them my way. I lead our sales efforts here at Suppli. We'll connect, and typically what we like to do is hop on a quick call, just to learn a little bit more about your business and how things are kind of operating today, what challenges you're facing, what pains or headaches you're looking to solve, and then we can kind of, there's a lot more on the product we didn't even really kind of get into today. We wanted to keep this, somewhat high level, but that allows us to kind of get in and put together a really tailored demo, of exactly how your workflows could look in a solution like Suppli. And then from there, it's a pretty fast, we'll move as fast or as slow as you kind of want to, can kind of get the info we need to put together a pricing proposal, et cetera, discuss what an implementation plan would look like. But I think to kick things off, feel free to shoot them my way, Shane, and we can kind of take the conversation from there.
That sounds great. Yeah, really interactive today. Appreciate the questions from everyone out in the audience. Thank you guys. Very informative. Excited to kick off our partnership, and looking forward to a long-term relationship with you guys, as well as you guys get into some of our customer base.
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone for your time today.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Great to meet everyone.
Have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.
All right, bye Shane. Thanks.